save! Mercy, what a stop!
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there, but what a stop! Looked like a sure goal. You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science podcast, where we break down the science of goaltending, coaching, and everything in between. I'm Dr. Jamie Phillips, former professional goalie, board-certified physical therapist, and goalie performance specialist, alongside my co-host, Derek Boujan, owner of Boujan Goaltending and On Ice Hockey Performance Center. Whether you're on your way to a game, gearing up for practice, or just tuning in, grab your favorite drink and let's drop the puck on this week's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Goalie Science podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips. I'm joined by goalie coach Derek Boujan. Bouj, you said you wanted to get right into it with your shout out of the week. I think I know who this is going to, so let's just get it out of the way early.
Oh, look at the smile. This is a proud coach. Hey, even you're smiling because you're alumni. Yeah. So one of my longtime students and friend of the show, and I've been working with this guy since he's been like 10 years old, and a lot of up and downs, a lot of adversity for this guy. And we always talk about getting through adversity when you're young because then you can handle it. Hayden Jeffrey got his first start in the OHL. He's played a little bit of mop-up duties, but I got a call on Tuesday of this week that he was going to get his first start in Owen Sound. So I packed up the truck. I brought Weston. I brought another one of my longtime clients. We made the 3-hour drive to Owen Sound to watch his first OHL start. It was okay. He was okay. He was okay. They lost 5-1. I have a funny story, and I'll go into it after I finish the shout out. But they lost 5-1. But I thought he held himself very well. I thought he proved that he belongs. I did get to see Carter George play in person again, and I used the term, I don't know if you have to blur this out, but goalie boner, because watching Carter George play gives you a goalie boner. He is that good at the OHL level. And if you're
You'll leave this in, and if we get flags, we get flags.
YouTube is going to sue us, but it is what it is. It's pretty fun watching him play. So first career OHL start against Carter George. And you know what, honest to God, Carter George class act. After the game, Owen Sound does the little stick salute, and Hayden's got to skate by him, and he goes, flags down Hayden, shakes his hand, and says something. I asked Hayden after the game and said, what Carter George said? He goes, congrats on your first start, and just keep grinding because you played really well. And talk about a mature 18-year-old hockey player, pretty classy. So I know Carter George is a big fan of the podcast. So when he hears that, thank you, Carter, for being such a class act. And then, the shout-out's not done yet.
No, and then there's more.
There's more. Then I get a phone call on Friday evening, very, very late Friday evening, that Hayden is getting his second start against the number one ranked CHL team in Canada, the London Knights. Yes. So I go grab tickets, standing room only because it's sold out. And I get to go and watch him become the first star, make 41 saves and 44 shots, and stop a 12-game losing streak for the Niagara Dogs and beat the number one ranked London Knights in the CHL last night. So super, super fun week for me. And you can tell by my face. So really, really awesome.
You know what? That's just one of those ones where you can't help but smile and feel good. So congrats to Hayden. Hopefully he keeps it up. I really like that Connor George story. You know what I like? I like when good players.
Hang on. If we're going to talk about Carter George, let's get his name right. You called him Connor George.
Did I? All right, I'm pretty sure I said Carter.
I'm pretty sure that you can watch this back because it's a podcast, and then you'll have to apologize to everybody.
Oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna cut it out. I get the last cut. So I like hearing good stories about he's a high level goalie. He's probably gonna play in the NHL. I like hearing good stories about guys being good guys. Reminds me of when I played against Cleveland against Jonas Corposalo. Don't want to brag. He's 0-1 against me, but after the game, I'm stretching, and he was just down at a conditioning stint. This is when they had, I believe they still had Bobrovsky. And so he was getting majority of the games, and then they'd send down Corposalo for a weekend. He'd play, come back up, send him down. And then on the way out, he did the same thing, shook my hand and said, congrats, great game, fun to play against you, keep grinding, something like that. Because he knew he got called up from the coast. Probably saw my style, was like, this guy's trash. But you know what? It made me feel good. speaking of 0-1 against me, also UC Saros, but who's gonna brag?
You played against UC Saros? I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he was in Milwaukee, played against Mike Ribeiro too.
Well, who cares for Mike Ribeiro? This is a goalie podcast. Honestly, I didn't know that you played against UC Saros.
Yeah,
That's proud.
very good, very good. He's very good. But you know what? If we're just doing shout, is this a shout out pod? I'm gonna give my shout out pod to, or a shout out part of the podcast. Owen Lundberg, his team made the Minnesota high school tournament. And you know what? And then this is also me being a fraud. I said if you made it to the tournament, I'd make it out. And I can't make it out. So what I do, I'm the worst. But what I'm gonna do is whatever the subscription in terms of like where you pay to watch all the games online, I'm going to pay to watch and play. So best I could do. Unfortunately,
So
I'm not able to fly. But I know what? I'm a bad guy, and I shouldn't make promises I can't keep, because I learned my lesson. I feel I had to apologize immensely to him for being a bad guy.
Well, yeah, you're a bad guy. And look at the contrast in good guyness on this podcast. I immediately jump out and drive.
You drove 30. You drove.
And you can't just jump on an airplane and go to Minnesota.
For one day, I gotta cancel all my patients. Yeah. So
We're seeing through you, Philly. Like this pot, you are exposing yourself as a bad guy.
Jamie is the fraud podcast. You know what?
Before we move on, hang on, wait. Before we move on, so I do have a funny story, and this is pretty. I found this incredibly interesting. I'm not interesting, but I thought it was pretty funny. So Hayden, when he gets told he's starting with the Ice Dogs, they've lost 10 games in a row. Like big slide, a lot of injuries. They're going through it right now. And he's warming up in the corridor before the game. And Ben Boudreau, another classy guy, great guy, great person, great human being. This podcast, maybe we can talk a little bit about like, if you're a good person, it definitely helps you in the game. So be a good person. Ben Boudreau, very good guy. He spent 35 minutes talking to Weston, who was 8 years old last year at his camp afterwards, and just kind of like wishing him good luck in AAA, and like super, super good guy. He comes up to Hayden. He's like, so, hey, you nervous? And he's like, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. He goes, Jeff, we've lost 10 games in a row. What's the difference if it's 11? And then he's like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. So, I mean, like how we talk about coaches can put pressure on guys. Like that is a good way to like really take the pressure off of a young kid getting his first start in the league. So shout out to Ben Boudreau for being a good person.
That's what I love to hear. Right now, it is the the Michigan states are going on right now for Maha. I'm sure everyone on the internet's talking about it. That 43-0 Little Caesars versus was it Bell Tire?
Bell Tire.
Yeah, Bell Tire game. And you know what? Actually, so what's gonna happen is we're gonna bring on one of the coaches when the season's over from the 2010 Fox teams, which is that same age. They play against Little Caesars. I believe they play against Little Caesars tomorrow. Or basically, in terms of Michigan, Little Caesars number 1, we're number 2. The games we play are usually pretty close, but those we have also shellacked both that team, and I believe it's Big B. So in the regular, one thing I found out though, if you're not aware, Little Caesars 2010 played Bell Tire. They beat them 43-0. They had 141 shots. Bell Tire had 0 shots. When I talked to my buddy who's the coach, said that Bell Tire did not cross the red line once in that game with possession. So the puck was in that zone the whole time. Bell Tire played one of their goalies as a forward because they just didn't have the numbers. And so yeah, everything was bad. But going back, and people are like, why has this happened? Well, in Michigan, there's normally a mercy rule where if you get up by 15 goals, I believe the 15 goals before the second period, and someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but there's definitely 15 goals. The game is over. It's a mercy. That doesn't happen in the state playoffs. That rule is thrown out. Number 2, this is a problem. I think it's a problem. I believe it's both Bell Tire and Big B did not want to put together a 2010 AAA team because they didn't have the numbers, and the directors of the program knew that they were not going to be a strong program. But the rules are you have to field a team at each level or else you face penalty. And so you put together a very weak team, they get shellacked. I also like when I think about that, and I'm gonna ask you this, Booge, do you think a lot of that onus falls on some of the parents who knowingly are signing their kids up to be on possibly like a single A or double A level team that's going against triple A teams every night and losing by 10 plus goals every single night? Or is that on the onus on the state, it was differential, the state organizers or the program itself?
What's the penalty? Like the penalty has to be something so egregious that you subject these children, like 2010, so they're what, 14 years old?
That's U14.
Yeah, like the penalty should be so egregious. Is it mandatory that they go into the Michigan State tournament?
Yes. So you can no longer opt out of that tournament either. You have to play in it too, which is another issue. And again, when we get Finkhouse on the pod, he knows it in depth. He's a head coach. He coaches about it. Coaches this every day. So he'll have more information. But after my 20-minute conversation with him, I was just curious, picking his brain. This is what he told me. But yes, you have to do it. You also have to have a team at that age group, or else you face a penalty. I don't know what the penalty is, but also when you look at that, like, is that similar to like it's almost like the inverse of the super team thing we talked about yesterday, like choosing to be on, or last week, or choosing to be on a weaker team in order to pump kids they can't hang. And now it's choosing to be at a higher level that you can't play at, understanding that you're just going to give up that many goals. And I don't think it's going to get better. Like there's going to be that skill gap for another 3 or 4 years as those kids move up into U15, U16, and then 2 years of U18.
You know what? Like the mindset of a parent is so clouded sometimes, because I don't know how many times you've talked to a parent. Like you deal like primarily with goalie parents. I deal with everybody. When you talk to a parent, a lot of the time their mindset is like, if he just gets into AAA and then plays against those guys, he'll catch up. And that's not necessarily true. It might be true for one of like every 10 kids, but the gap between even AA and AAA is very big. There is a massive gap, and it gets bigger every year. So caution yourself on the mindset that all you got to do is get in there. When he practices with those guys and plays with those guys, he's going to catch up. Those guys are still getting better too. Your son or daughter might get better, but they're not getting worse. So that gap doesn't really close. That gap, it stays parallel. Now, there's obviously some examples of kids that do, when they get in, they excel because they get better coaching, the exposure, getting out of their comfort zone, all that stuff does happen. But I mean, like, I talk to many, many parents, and that is the mindset a lot of times. And there's nothing wrong with playing at a lower level and being a player that contributes more, gets more ice time, gets more opportunity to play special teams, gets to be a leader on the team, wins. Like, how many of those kids are going to quit hockey?
That's the first thing I said when I saw that. I was like, a lot of these kids are going to quit hockey. And then now the entire internet, we're talking about it. And these kids have to deal with that being on that team. And that sucks. Like, that's not fun. And like,
let's not gloss over 43-0. Like, this isn't 11-0. This isn't 15-0. This is 43. 141 shots to 0. Ryan Kessler is the coach of this team.
Yeah, I'm not going to make comments on that as someone who is an organization that competes against him, but I think most people can put 2 and 2 together.
Do we need to comment? Like, all we need to do is say Ryan Kessler coached this team and leave it there. I mean, it's speechless, man. It really is speechless. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I feel very bad for everybody. I feel bad for the kids on Little Caesars that won 43-0. Like, that is not fun.
It's not fun, and you have to know, like, they probably were like, this is stupid.
I just don't know how it gets to 43-0. I don't know how you get 141 shots. Like, I don't know how you just stop shooting.
Because the puck literally never left Bell Tire's zone. It just didn't leave the zone.
But why are you shooting? 141 shots.
I am I am very, very aware. Very aware.
Like I don't
Because I've seen us, the second best team in the state, play against them. And I think I said Bigby before. It was either Bigby or Victory Honda is a very weak team at this age group too. And I remember watching it within the last couple of weeks because actually we mercied them to both games and our ranking went down because actually by beating them, our ranking went down. And so we missed something in terms of, which was dumb. But I remember watching it and our players just circled, like just circle in the zone and just like funnel, like roll the puck, cycled, didn't shoot. And then finally would shoot, they'd score. And I remember watching it and I said, this is bad. None of this is good. Like none of this is good for the game. And like, they don't want to play against a really weak team like this. I'm sure that weak team doesn't want to play. The goalie is just getting roasted. So like
100 saves. I saw an interview with the goalie dad. Somebody said it to me, and that's what he said. He goes, "Wow, my kid made 100 saves. He also gave up 43 goals. He had like a 67 save percentage. But like, yeah.
There was no backup either, so it's not like you get to share the load.
But can we? Diane, I don't. You hit something that I don't want to pass up on. I want to talk about hockey rankings, like myhockeyrankings.com, like the website. Like these parents my son is 9 years old. He has no idea what myhockeyrankings.com is. But you know how these kids find out about them is because mom and dad are on the internet and they're looking at the rankings and then they're talking about the rankings. Oh, we have to win by 7 goals today or our ranking goes down. You people are idiots. The rankings mean nothing. They mean nothing. My hockey rankings in the algorithm, yeah, you know what? It's a good tool to see and have a good idea of like teams you're playing when you go to tournaments. And like, it's fun, sure. But for these kids wouldn't know what this website is at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, except mom and dad are at work bored and they're looking up my hockey rankings and they're going home and talking about it with their kids and putting these ideas in that you have to win 43-0 or your ranking goes down. I blame you. I blame you, the parents. They wouldn't know. And these forums that people talk about, these kids don't know these things exist, except you guys are bored at work and you are doing dumb things and then coming home and saying dumb things. And then you are putting these dumb ideas in your kids. And now we have to listen to, I have to win 15-0 or my ranking goes down. Nonsense, man. Like, I'm fired up.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people care. That's usually the parents. Like we talked to a couple episodes ago, we were looking at recruiting a player, and the first thing goes, "Well, what's your my hockey ranking? I'm not playing on any team that's below 12." I'm like, well, I don't want you here then. Like, I want players that are good people and are good athletes and want to push, and I want athletes that want to get their team from a 20 to a 12, whatever. That if you put weight in their rankings. But I'm also just looking back at our 2010s here. So Bell Tire, that was the game back in February 1st that I watched. 16-0 mercied, 16-0 mercied. I think 1 shot against, maybe 2 shots against. And then 22nd against Pittsburgh Predators, 11-2 win. And then on the 26th, 14-0 would have been that same weekend in the state tournament.
Man, shame on Bell Tire for taking these people's money and saying that this is a AAA team.
Apparently they have to.
What is the rule? They get kicked out of all of AAA or they pay a fine?
I would guess they'd have to pay a fine, but
all the teams, these things are not non-for-profit, right?
No, they are not. They are definitely not for profits.
Yeah, they make money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then pay your fine. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Cut the crap. Like, if it's not, they're not going to get kicked out of the league. They're not going to get disbanded as a program. They're going to get a fine, pay the fine instead of stealing people's monies because you're criminals. It's criminal. Like, you're taking upwards of what? I don't know what it is in the States, $8,000 to $10,000 US to claim that you're playing on a AAA team when you know it's not. Criminal behavior.
Yeah, we'll bring Colin on and we'll talk more in depth. But now I'm glad I got you fired up because I was fired up. I was fired up. Was that Friday? Oh boy, was I fired up. So I'll divulge. I'll divulge as much as I can without getting fired from my volunteer position. So, in one of the things we're in USA Hockey, we're putting together our district camps for evaluation. There's a few things, and also we're going to bring on Steve Thompson. We're interviewing him this Tuesday as we're recording on Sunday, but this will be next week. We'll bring on Steve Thompson, director of goaltending development for USA Hockey. We're putting him on the hot seat. We gave a little bit heads up. There's a few things that I am not a fan of in terms of the way that we evaluate. And I think I'm hoping that it's going to be a good discussion because Steve is awesome. And I'm curious to know his thoughts and some of his and the higher ups and what they think is best in terms of evaluating, ranking. But we're putting together a district camps for Michigan, and I'm in charge of designing the drills. And so I take my professional experience as a coach and I'm like, what do I want? If I'm evaluating goalies, like, what are the things that I want to see? Like, I want to see who can stop the puck, who can think and understand and read and react to different plays and process. Yes, there needs to be technical aspects, but in the goalie evaluation part, not outside of the games, in the goalie skates that they get, I don't want to just do stationary shots. Like, things need to be dynamic. I need to have, like, one of my drills is there was puck handling and rims and communication with some deep pressure. And everyone on board and where we are in the district part, we're like, yes, this is what we want to see because we haven't seen this in past years. We haven't done drills like these. And same thing as, like, I want some 2-on-1-ish type drills, some 3-on-2-ish, some situation things. Can the goalies Are we looking at drill goalies? Are we looking at goalies? Is what I want to be able to distinguish in the tryouts. However, that was great when I created my drills and I got the thumbs up for them. And we find out that 2 of the rinks that we're going to will not allow us to shoot and have drills in the neutral zone because they don't want us shooting against the glass. And I got fired up because I was like, well, this ruins the drills. And this now means we have to take our end zones and split them in half, which means now we no longer can do any realistic things. And part of USA Hockey and what we've pressured is we need to do more realistic things, realistic drills. We went through the USA Bronze course. I recommend everyone do it, whether you're a coach, parent, goalie. It's really important. We talked about how we want things to be realistic so that we're not building robot goalies. And I don't want to evaluate robot goalies, but now I have to recreate the drills as best as I can with limited space. And I got really mad and I got passive aggressive to people I shouldn't. I apologize after. But the things I said was like, do they get mad when players break the puck out of the zone too hard? And then I talked to a few other people. It turns out that this rink will penalize you if you are shooting pucks against the glass in warmups in the neutral zone. They don't put thick glass in the neutral zone in order to save money. They don't keep extra glass on hand in order to save money. And so they are adamantly against us shooting any pucks against the glass in the neutral zone. And they said they may let us shoot against the bench side where we lose all the pucks, where the players drink the water, where it's dangerous. And now we're putting the athlete. And so I was so mad and I went on a rampage because the way I look at it is like, yes, I understand that these rinks are privately owned and stuff. And I take for granted about how good Fox is with their rinks. Like I asked the rink guy, I was like, how thick is the glass? He's like, there's a couple panels on the end zone or the neutral zones that are a little thinner, but every time they break, we replace them with thicker glass, the same thickness that goes on in the end zones. And I said, okay. And he's like, yeah, like we'd never stop you guys from shooting pucks. Really think that's stupid. We keep tons of glass on hand. He said the other rinks are doing that because they're cheap. But if you are a rink, you should be providing if you're a business, your job should be providing the best possible service to these athletes, to these people. And like USA Hockey is coming in and Michigan Hockey is coming in and we're spending a lot of money to rent the ice. Like, and in my brain, I'm like, if we can't do the things that we need to do at the level that we want to do them, we should go to another rink to do it. And I know that's not that easy. It's not easy said to done. We have to do things based on locations, whether we're in the middle of the state, the east side of the state, the west side, the north. I get that. But God, that was probably the dumbest thing, because I'm just going to take one-timers. I'm just going to go out there and just take one-timers at the glass, because they had a U12 team break a panel of the glass on a breakout shot. And now they are hardcore shutting down, no pucks off the glass at any times except for gameplay. And what's the point of having a hockey rink? What's the point of having a rink? Why the crazy one here?
Well, no, change rinks.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Why don't you just go to a different rink? Or just do what Stop It does in the summer and put the tarp, hang the tarp so the puck doesn't hit the glass. I mean, it's embarrassing. You can't see from the stands then. But I mean, I don't know. Shoot tennis balls?
Yeah. Maybe we should just use the rubber puck, the blue pucks that they use in like.
They don't go straight. They like flutter.
Yeah.
I mean,
see who could track a puck?
I don't know. I don't know what
So
to tell you on this one, Jamie. I don't know.
I was so mad. That, and along with some of the evaluation things, which I need to talk, when we talk to Steve, I need to know what are we allowed to talk about on the evaluation process. I don't know if the athletes get that back. If they get that sheet back, then yes, we can talk about it, because that would be public knowledge. If they don't, and that's kept in-house, then we can't talk about some of the evaluation things.
We just talk about evaluating and how archaic and old school and stupid it is. Because, I mean, any evaluation report card that has numbers or letters has nothing to quantify the number that you get. It's just some guy circling it because he has to. Because he has to give you a ranking with no basis and nothing to support that. And he just circles a number, whether it's 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, what arbitrary number somebody gives him that he has to give you a ranking on. Your glove hand is a 7 out of 10. Well, what happens if in my entire session, the guy only shot 1 shot glove? How do you give me a 7 out of 10? Because I have to arbitrarily just circle a number and give you a ranking to justify me being here and evaluating you. It is dumb. We talked about this. I told you how I believe every evaluation or feedback, maybe not evaluation, but every evaluation, feedback, or review of performance at a camp should be done. And I don't know if we want to talk about it right now or we want to wait for Steve. I don't know. I would say give me some direction on this, but you left the building and I don't know where you went. Oh, you're back.
I was getting really thirsty. After my,
I was just kind of ramble because you were like, I know, but you can't speak. I was rambling. But
I gotta be a.
Should we wait or should we just go into it? What do you
We could talk about a little bit. I think it would set the stage for what we want to talk about with Steve. Steve will be more directly in terms of what are USA Hockey's thoughts around these things. This will be more of kind of our thoughts and opinions without getting the nitty gritty of what USA Hockey does specifically. We can just take, I mean, we've all been to camps. We all get goalies that go to camps and they bring back their like scouting report. And it's like, you were a 2 out of 5 on stance. What is that? What does that mean?
Who evaluates stance? I mean, listen, I'm on Instagram. I know which guys will talk and talk and talk and waste everybody's time making posts about the perfect stance. There's no such thing. That's why everybody's stance looks different. Complete waste of time. It's a bunch of words to make you sound smarter than you actually are. But there's no way anybody could ever tell me that an evaluation with a number-based circles holds any value. And guess what? I am a hypocrite. I am 1,000% a hypocrite. I have done that a lot. I've given report cards out with rankings and number-based reviews. And at the very end of it, what I do is I take my 4 or 5 rankings, I say who I like the best, and then I circle numbers and I make sure his ranking is the highest on the numbers. I'm a hypocrite, but it's dumb. Like if we're actually going to let the cat out of the bag, like the way evaluations and reviews should happen, and I said this the other day, is you either have like an exit meeting, right? And you say, this is what we've seen as a group, and you talk about it because there is no quantifiable number to say your glove is this out of 10, right? You can say, we see some weaknesses on their glove side when guys are shooting with left-handed coming down the right wing. So it's cross body. And you have a little bit of backflow. We see where you struggle with this, or you're not square. So you're getting to the glove side. How do you give that a number out of 10? Right? You can't.
You're taking things, you're trying to quantify qualitative things. You can't do that without, because you need some sort of standardization, like you said, and that doesn't exist. So it's like we joke about it now, but you had one of your goalies years ago get cut because he didn't have a 45-degree spinal angulation in his stance.
I forgot about that.
I love it. I bring that story up all the time in terms of how dumb things are. Like,
do you remember who that was? Because I don't.
That was years ago.
I want to say maybe it was Cookie, but I might be wrong. But I do, now that you're saying, I do remember it was, he got cut because he didn't have a 45-degree spinal angulation in his stance. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
And
no,
it's like what you said. Like, yeah, I understand that there needs to, we have to have quote unquote data or some sort of thing to talk about and why we made the decisions and why people moved on and why they didn't. The number-based thing shouldn't be it. If you are bringing in experts, which is what these camps do, you need to sit down and talk and make your rankings. And actually, one cool, I think I talked about it. One of the things that we are bringing in is one of my old roommate, friend of the show, not a hockey guy, but not a goalie guy, but friend of the show and massive stats nerd, not Ben Cernick, but Isaac Lennox. He and I put together a sheet that essentially we are going to use it for tryouts for Fox, but also we're now going to use it for goalie evaluations at Maha, and hopefully beyond into USA Hockey. But it takes all the coaches' opinion, or what their opinion, but their thoughts and their rankings. And each goalie is listed from that coach's 1 to 20, or how many goalies are there. And then that aggregate is taken from each coach. And then the sheet, the formula pumps out which goalie, which is the top 3 and 5 goalies from that camp based on all the coaches' evaluation. So if one coach has a goalie ranked at number 1, and another coach has him ranked at 5, and then the other coaches have him at 2, 3, 4. But we've given a point value. So if for every, if you're ranked at number 1, you get the most number of points. And whoever has the most number of points from throughout the coaches gets ranked at number 1. And that way we have another way of doing it. And yes, technically it's a point system, but it's based off of, I think this goalie is the best. Here's my 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 20. Here's what you think. All the coaches put their opinion in. This is what it says. Now we can talk about it. Where are we all on the same page for, yes, this is our top goalie. No, it's our top goalie. Here's why. And it just helps to as something to bring it all together rather than using, we gave this goalie a 45, but he's low because he got a 2 out of 4 on knee bend and 2 out of 4 on hip hinge, when the goalie is probably going to play in the US 17s next year. That's dumb.
Yeah. See, the one thing about yours, which is completely different than what we're talking about, is yours is a ranking against other goalies. It's not exactly what you said. Like an NHL 25 player rating, like Austin Matthews is ranked 87 or something like that. Mm-hmm. That is where I have the issue. And to me, it comes back to a performance review at a camp or at a tryout, right? That's where I have a problem with this number system and gradings by letters or numbers or however we want to do it. Where to me, and I'm going to do this is going to be my first year doing this, because as soon as we started talking about it last week, I was like, the way I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it that way starting now. It'll be every goalie that comes to the tryout that I evaluate, I am going to make a 2 or 3 minute video talking about the things that they are good at and the things that they need to improve on without any ranking or rating of their performance. And just say, compared to the other guys in the group, your skating is a little bit behind, not because of one thing or you get a 3 out of 5, but In terms of the median of the group, your skating and your ability to change directions with your feet is a little bit behind and needs improvement. Your tracking is top half of the group, but it's something that we strongly consider. We strongly recommend you keep improving on your puck handling, or just kind of like that, where it's not you are a 75 out of 100 and you got cut because this guy was a 77 out of 100. That is stupid. That doesn't give anybody anything positive. It doesn't give them anything to go and work on because they never got to ask those questions. We just got a report card. And when you get those report cards from your goalies and I get those report cards from my goalies, we look at them and be like, this is nonsense. This is dumb. Because
I actually just
it's some guy in the stands just circling numbers as fast as he can to justify him getting paid and saying, okay, well, I did my ranking. Here you go. Okay, but where is the actual feedback that matters?
Yeah. And I like that idea. I'm going to throw that out to the group. That what it is that takes more time and effort. And it means
does it? I mean, does it really?
Well, we'd have a lot of goalies. That means you actually have to pay attention to the goalies.
When you guys evaluate,
but no. I'm not saying that's not good. But that when you get the hired help to come out for a tryout, that most people don't want to put in extra effort to do things.
I'm not saying every evaluator is going to make a video, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying whoever is in charge, the head guy, where the buck stops with, like with my evaluation team, I have 4 or 5 guys doing evaluations, but then we sit in a room, we talk about who we like, what we like about them, what we don't like about them, and then it's my responsibility as the boss to communicate the results to the coaches and to the families. So it'd be my responsibility to make these review videos. And that's my job.
I think that's a really good idea. And for those listening, where my frustration came out of is I was talking to some of my goalies that I was like, look, because they were in the past, the Maha districts on both the boys and the girls side, it's been heavily criticized in a lot of areas, and we're trying to make changes of it. And I'm happy to be a part of trying to make positive change in these things. And so I was telling them, I was like, hope you guys signed up and girls signed up for districts because I'm in charge of the drills. I'm trying to make sure the drills are good and that you get enough touches and all these things so you can show yourself. And I found out that 2 of the goalies at Fox, one of them doesn't train with, he's not an EGM goalie, but is a Fox goalie. Supposed to be, according to everyone, supposed to be at the 17s, or have a very good chance of making the 17s next year. And the one after that is a 2010, has a very good chance of making the 17s after that. Both of them didn't make it past the first round of cuts. And these 2 are the top 2 or 3 goalies ranked in the country at their age group. One of them, I get calls as the Fox development guy from OHL, USHL, and NHL teams inquiring about it. You're telling me that I'm getting calls from NHL teams, but this kid isn't good enough to make district camps? Something went wrong there. Something went wrong on our side, the evaluation side, because that shouldn't happen. And this is what we're going to talk about with Steve, because I know he's going to say, well, maybe he had a bad weekend and we're looking for kids that are performing that weekend. And this is why we have different last chance qualifiers and that stuff. But come on, we've gone to massive goalie camps. Who's good and who's not.
And if you don't know a kid and you watch him for 5 minutes and you're like, man, this kid's pretty good, what's the next thing you're going to do?
You're going to go look at his season.
You're going to ask, who is this kid? Where does he play? And you're going to go and find out about him. If you are any good at your job, you're going to see a kid for 5 minutes, be like, this kid is legit. And then you're going to go and do your homework and find out who he is.
Yes.
I mean, at least if you're competent.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why I pointed contention between where my opinion in USA Hockey, where we differ, where the emphasis is placed on who performs that weekend and not as much as body of work, where I think it should be, I think body of work should take precedent over the season, part of that weekend performance. I think both need to be considered, yes, because USA Hockey really cares about short-term tournaments, like we went on last time. Do you take Bennington, who win the tournament, or do you take Hellebuck, who's the best goalie in the NHL, but hasn't been hasn't won the Four Nations Cup or the World Championship, and wasn't good in playoffs last year, making him, by USA Hockey's definition, a not a I don't know, clutch goalie, I guess. I don't know how they want to, whatever they'd say it. But that's frustrating, because it's also frustrating for those kids, because it helps us as as Maha and USA Hockey, when our best players want to go to those district camps and move on to the next level of cuts, and then move on and move on and move on, because it just looks better, and it's better for them, and as it goes. But when those kids that are literally this kid's not even my personal goalie, and I probably have about 10 text messages on my phone right now that I haven't answered about how well he's playing right now, and how good he's doing for Fox Motors, and how proud Fox Motors should be for this kid. And I love it. And he's getting cut, and he doesn't want to go back to the district camps. And I don't blame him. I would have done exactly the same. It's like I got nuts. It's not even close to example, but I remember I got cut in grade 9 for my high school hockey team. And like, I was playing AAA hockey. I got cut for a kid who played house league because he was a senior. And the coach was just like, yeah. And the next year, my high school, which is, for those listening, like, Ontario high school hockey is not, it's what you do. Like, you do it for fun because you got nothing else to do. The coach was offering to buy me 12 sticks to play on the season. I'm just like, no, I'm not. The next year, I'm like, I'm not playing on your team. Why would you cut me? That's so stupid. And it goes the same. So like, I had a talk with this kid, and I was like, I don't know if you're considering going back. I didn't know you got released the first round until a couple of days ago. Like, I hope you reconsider coming back. I know you don't need to. And I do want you to focus on the U.S. hockey program's tryouts, because you've already been invited to them. If you have the time, I do want you to go through this evaluation process again, because they're trying to fix it, but I still don't know if you signed up. But that's frustrating for me, because that's forever and ever. Like, that's going to be on, not his resume, but it's going to be forever, like a mark on our thing when when TSN makes a story about how he got cut from districts for some like JV kid. And they're like, that's going to look so bad. But yeah, it's frustrating. I'm excited to talk about that with Steve, because
I had a thought.
The buck stops with him.
I had a thought about 15 minutes ago when he started talking, and I just had to wait. But back to the trial process and who performs well on the weekend. I think that does have value, but I think that has value for the guys that are playing on weaker teams that don't have the body of work through the course of the season that support it with, like, whether we want to talk about stats or like maybe just views, because like you get more eyeballs on you when you're on a good team, right? So like if you're on a weaker team, you don't have the eyeballs and guys just don't know about you, and you come into camp and then blow everybody away. There needs to be value in that performance for sure. If we are just throwing out a body of work over 80 games, it makes no sense. Like that.
But that's exactly, it's up. That's for me. And we've had this conversation many times in our text. It's upside down. Exactly it. But you take, for example, Little Caesars goalie got a 6 shutout, 0 shots against, still a shutout. Stats look good. I don't know if he can play, right? Like, you get 6 shots a night, maybe. I don't know if you're any good. Like, I need to see you. That's where that tryout process is really important. Can you play? The same thing. If you're on, maybe you are on that, you're on the bell tire or whatever, the team that gave up 141 shots. I don't know if you're any good. Like, your team's bad. So this is when the tryout process is good. But then you look at the goalies we're talking about that didn't make it, and other goalies that are on, good teams or average teams, and night in, night out are consistently good, and they're good, and they're the ones that advisors and agents are already reaching out to, and teams are already reaching out to, and they're the top of everyone's list. That when other people whose job it is to scout and evaluate are telling you how good these goalies are, we can't just throw that away. Like, that needs to be a part of it. And that went back to one of my other qualms with USA Hockey in terms of how we weren't actually watching goalies in out their season, because we don't have the fund and budget for that, I guess.
But I have a question. I'm confused, because you start off all of these titles that you have, and like you make yourself seem so vastly important to everybody. But
I only important to me.
Okay, but like, are you I remember hearing in maybe the giant intro to this podcast where you're a doctor of everything and I'm just Derek Boujan. But are you not like the head of goalie development in Michigan or something?
No. So I'm a
Let's go
goalie.
through your titles again. Here we
Yeah,
go.
I'm a goalie development coordinator, which means I'm in charge of making sure that the camps and the goalie sides run smoothly and that we are basically updating things like doing the drills, making sure that we don't have 47 goalies on the ice and they're not getting touches, as well as I do evaluate, but I am not the head evaluator. I don't believe I am the head. I don't believe in Michigan we have a set head evaluator, but we do have the people that work with the U.S. hockey program that are involved that will be there evaluating. But we have development coordinators. There's two of us. There's myself. There's Eric, who's on the east side. And we come together and we make sure that the camps run smoothly. And then the people that we bring in, including ourselves, to do the evaluating, we make sure that we evaluate. However, we are evaluating with those numerical tools and sheets that we have. Yeah. So
were you not
I
part of
don't
this
have
evaluation? Like this
this was last year.
Oh, this is last year.
This is last year's evaluation. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't a part of this. I didn't know any of this. This is my first year as this volunteer position.
So when do these districts happen? Like when is this next April? Okay. And for the layman's like me and the Ontarians and people who are listening, like my mom, what is the district camp? Like what is the point of this camp?
There are 3 or 4 district camps, but eventually, basically the goal is to figure out who the top kids in Michigan are and push them on to a larger camp up at Lake State in Sault Ste. Marie, USA, where we bring together the top kids and it helps whittle down the top players in Michigan to help identify them for the program and make it a little bit easier on the program. It's just it's a tool to help us find the best kids in the state. Each state or district
tournament.
I don't believe so. No, each state does this, or each district. Some of the smaller districts, like if you're in like Arkansas, like you're Arkansas, Kansas, whatever, Oklahoma, there's multiple state groups. Michigan has its own one. Minnesota has its own one. Alaska has its own one, and like etc. And then they all come together, and it makes it a little bit easier to identify talent throughout the process. And then if there are extra teams, I think there might be. I don't know if there's a tournament because my job is only the districts right here, and then to evaluate at the next time. I also have a new role with the goalie development group, but I'm not actually allowed to talk about that just yet, which is super weird. I'll talk about it when I get permission. It's announced. But in terms of all of USA hockey goalies, I have a new, actually important role for that one. not a volunteer position, which is good. But for what I do too is also to take these discussions that I have, like with you and other folks, and bring them to the paid people at MAHA, or Michigan Amateur Hockey Association, and guys like Steve Thompson, to try to improve the camps to make them run as smooth and evaluate as efficiently as possible, so that we don't make the mistakes, like last year where these kids fell through the cracks. So it's a volunteer position. Unfortunately, I don't get to go in and lay down the law, because if I did, we'd probably be at different rinks that let you shoot at the glass. But it's just a foot in the door with USA Hockey, really.
I just want to point out that I asked you a simple question. We went on a 12-minute rant and had to slide in there that you have a new role.
I do have a new role
that will be added to the intro to make me seem even less significant.
Yeah, I have a new intro, and I extended what you do. But this new role, I actually am very, very fired up about. I can't wait for that. But one thing I put that I did want to talk about, because a parent told me this Friday. So he was talking about his son was going into, I believe this would be double A, and they're going into their state tournament this past weekend. I think they played their last game today. They didn't move on, but they're playing against a team in Ohio, and so Ohio has no limit on games. So there's one team that they're going to play against that's going to play about 90 games this season, where Michigan has a limit. And I don't know the number, but he said depending on age, it's about 45 to 50 games a year. What are your thoughts on a team playing 90 games in the fall season versus having a limit, maxing out at only 50 games in the fall season?
90 games is a lot of games. That's a lot of games.
I don't know when they practice.
Yeah, that's a lot of games. If we're looking at it from the goalie side of view, man, I think if you're getting 25 starts, that's pretty good. Like, that's not bad. Like, minutes are important. If I think like if my kid's 9 years old, if he got 40 starts this year, to me, that's too much. Like, just in terms of like long term, like maintenance of the body, like, you know what I mean? Like long term development, like 40 games, is a lot of games, like for a kid to play as a goalie.
So like, it's a lot of games.
It's a lot of games. I'm 25 to 30 starts to me is like, yeah, you've hit your mark. Like, a 90 games, too many games.
It's a lot of games. And like you said, the maintenance and the wear and tear on the body is one thing. Hopefully they're not sacrificing practice time. I would imagine that what they're probably doing is playing like 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Like, their schedule must be just weekend heavy, just loaded multiple games a day. But I hope they're not sacrificing that practice time. Like, I hope that they're just, rather than giving up 1 or 2 practices a week, they're just replacing those with games. I feel like this one would be a heated discussion with most parents because they'd be like, nah, games is better. 90 is like a 13-year-old.
That's too many games.
That's a lot of games. Way too many games.
But like, okay, let's look at it from let's not look at it as like from the perspective we're looking at. Let's look at it from this point of view. If you're playing 90 games, how early into the year do you think the coach's message starts to become a pain in the butt? You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of games. So if you got a coach,
you have to have like nine different messages.
Yeah, like I think that'd be incredibly difficult to coach. Like, to find different ways to motivate guys, find different ways to get guys to buy in, find different ways to keep guys invested. Like, that would be incredibly difficult to manage. Now let's talk about like the school part of this. If you're playing 90 games and remembering that less than 1% of you are going to the NHL and will have to get a job, what is going on with our educational life? Like, I mean, sure, like, you're 90 games. I love games. Yeah, man, like 30 starts for a goalie, I think, is perfect. We're up to like 45. I'm thinking, like, the first thing I thought was like, I'm a head coach of that team. I do not want to coach 90 games. Like, I'm like, that would be incredibly, incredibly hard. It really wouldn't. Like, how do you 90 times keep a kid invested and get a kid to buy in, to try and do back check through the dots and collapse into the house, right? Like, simple thing like that. Like, eventually that message just becomes like, okay, God, like, enough already, to a player. You know what I mean?
You get, depending on how the coaches coach it, like, if they're coaching it, like, hey, we're here to win. It's hard to correct mistakes and get that teaching time for D zone structure, offensive zone, neutral zone, like those kind of things. Like you said, like, maybe you have to work, your defensemen have bad gaps. Like, it's hard to fix someone's gap in the heat of the game. You need to have that practice time and that to go through it. That's, and then, and then he said, and those kids are then playing another 30 games of spring hockey.
Oh yeah.
And then it just never ends.
Yeah. I mean, like, Terrence, don't do it. Like, don't, like, more is not better. More is just more. Like, better is better.
Yes. 90 games is a lot. So I thought that one was interesting. I had no idea that was brought up. Anything else you want to talk about here? Or, I'm excited to talk about this with Steve because I'm trying not to, I don't want to turn this into a roast sesh,
Well, I don't want to get you. I don't want to get you fired. Like I don't want to get you fired. And I'm going to be
Well,
very.
Can I get fired from my non-paid position?
Yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can. But no, like we briefly chatted about what we were going to talk about in this pod, and we didn't talk about it at all. And I kind of think sometimes when we just come on and wing it, some of our best discussions kind of come out of it, and some of our best points come out of it. Like we literally, for people who are listening to this, and Ben is probably like, "Oh yeah, I can tell you guys had no idea what you're going to talk about." But I mean, like we just come on here and we just talk.
Don't let Ben say that, because majority of the podcast Ben and I did, we didn't have a plan. We didn't have a plan. And so
Sometimes organically it can just develop into a good conversation. And like that's kind of what I want. I like that. And like when we interview people, you're always like, do you want to know the questions we're going to ask you before? I'm like, I don't have any questions. Like, well, I'm just going to do this as we go. Like
I did ask Rupe Koskinen, goalie development guy for the Wings, goalie coach of the Griffins, if we gave him a list of questions ahead of time, can we interview him? And he says he has to get it cleared by the Red Wings. But as long as the questions are not divulging Red Wings trade secrets, and it's more about youth development and things he's seen because he was in charge of a youth development, and was it Kalpa? I don't know, some Finnish team somewhere in North Finland. And then I gave him a couple like random questions, ideas of the format of the questions. But yeah, like I like to provide a list of questions depending, especially if they're going to be like, people are in professional organizations and I know that they can't say certain things. Like I'm not going to come and be like, so what are the chances Trey Augustine is full-time in the NHL next year? Like, yeah, I want to know that, but I'm not going to ask him that. There are some things, and then like, I'll get some questions from you too, because for this one, I'll probably try to do that in person, but we'll see. Like, I would like to have you on the pod, so you might have to fly over here and record it. But yeah, we make it.
And you know what? If we go back to the beginning of this pod, I am not like you. I will fly to support the people that I love.
You actually could fly here because the flights makes no sense to fly from Toronto or Hamilton to Grand Rapids.
I'd probably just drive the 4.5 hours.
It'd just be way faster.
You know what? Like it was really nice. Like pre-COVID, I had a really good group of goalies that, like being in Ontario, went and played in BC. I had 3 goalies and defensemen that all went to play in BC. And my travel buddy, Mike Albanese, friend of the show, listens to like one of every 10 episodes. Like we just jumped on planes and we went to BC like 3 times, and it was just to watch goalies, and it was fun. And actually there's a pretty funny story. I mean, like funny for the people listening, not so funny for me, but I was flying out there to watch 2 of my goalies. And when I was probably, I'd say Winnipeg, the one goalie that I was going to fly out there to watch was actually flying the other way because he got traded to Ottawa on the same day that I flew out to BC to see him. So I never did get to see him. I landed in Surrey. I stayed the Friday night in Surrey, BC to watch one of my goalies named Cal Shell, who was playing in Surrey. Watched him play on Friday. The rest of the weekend, I had nothing to do because the other guy got traded back to Ottawa, so I went snowboarding. It was pretty fun. And then Cal got traded on the Sunday that I was flying out, and he was actually at the airport the same time that I was. So it was a pretty disastrous trip from Ontario to BC, but pretty funny story. I mean, expensive, but pretty fun.
Do you have any? So I think about that, but I think about when you came to watch me in Pembroke and I played terrible. Do you have any good experiences coming to watch your goalies, or is it always?
Actually, you know what? Like,
Geeks bring the pain.
Cal was good. So that year so the first time me and Mike went out to BC was for the BCHL showcase. So we got there and Cal played first game and he played really well. And then the first game of the tournament for Prince George, which was where another goalie I was training with, his name is Jack McGovern, who's playing NCAA right now. He got yanked. He gave up, I don't know, 4 goals on maybe 7 shots. So he got pulled real quick. Never got to see him play again the year because he was the one that got traded to Ottawa that I flew by. But then when I went out again the second time to see Cal had another really good game. So actually every time I went to BC to see Cal play, Cal was really good. And then every time I've gone to watch Cal play in college, he's been really good. So I think maybe I'm Cal's lucky charm. and I am Jack's kryptonite. So I'm very cognizant of who plays well when I show up and who struggles when I show up.
Speaking of BCHL, response is never going to end. Although people do listen to the end, so shout out to those still listening.
That was a rumor. People always listen in. That was just a hate rumor started by Ben.
Penticton V's going to the WHL.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
What?
that.
What is, or they are rumored to, but I'm sure it's going to happen. What's going to happen to the BCHL?
Oh boy, I had this conversation today. First of all, Penticton, when I go to BC, that's where I stay. I love Penticton. It is unbelievable. It is literally unbelievable.
Going to the Jets Young Stars thing, are you saying best place?
Oh God, just any
Okanagan is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Unreal. Like so gorgeous. I was talking about this the other days. I don't really know. One of my goalies asked, one of my defensemen asked, he's playing U18 AAA. He's like, I have an option to go to the OJHL, which is junior A in Ontario, the AJHL, which is Alberta Junior Hockey League. It's a junior A league. And then the GOJHL, which is the junior B league in Ontario, which is a very, very good league also. He said, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I honest to God don't really know. With the CHL rule, things are going to be different. So what's going to happen to the BCHL, Jamie? I have no idea. Does it go back into Hockey Canada, you think?
That's what I was
Would they be allowed back
now
Canada?
with that rule, that and them not being they shot themselves in the foot quite a bit.
But it was a great move at the time.
At the time, it was a great
2020.
high choice 2020, but now they are in a real pickle because now going there, you got to go directly to the NCAA after.
I still think it is still by far the best junior A league in Canada. Like, there's no disputing that.
Is it now with all their best players leaving?
Yeah, but they're leaving to go to the OHL or the WHL, right? They're still leaving to go to major junior.
Yeah, that's
right. You know what I mean? So if those players go to major junior, there's still some guys that they take guys' jobs. They come down. Now, maybe some of those Ontario guys in the OHL don't go to BC. They fall and go into like the OJ. But I also think those guys that kind of bump down out of the OHL, I think those guys go to the Q because the Q takes a lot of Ontario guys. Yeah. So I still think the BCHL, for the time anyway, for the next couple of years, is still the best option of junior A hockey in Canada. But you're not going to get those guys that like a Hayden Jeffrey. Here's a perfect example. My shout out at the beginning. The plan for him was before this year was to go to the BCHL. Now that he's going up and down in the OHL, that's not going to happen. Like, he's not going to go and play the BCHL. I think maybe next year he has a good opportunity to stick full time in the OHL, probably. Mm-hmm. But this was like the discussion was like, does he go there and play the best junior A league? No, because now he gets called up all the time.
He's already playing the best junior A league.
Yeah, they're not going to call him up if he's in Penticton, right? Yeah, so it definitely changes. It definitely changes things, but it's still the best junior hockey league right now in Canada.
That makes sense. And then the last thing before we end the pod, I found this out. And I don't know if this is a new rule, but if Americans trying to play junior A in Canada can't play until they graduate high school unless they have residency as part of Hockey Canada rules. And I think this might be a new rule because I'm dealing with this with one of my goalies who would be going into his senior year of high school or grade 12. And he's grown past AAA at this point, but the NA teams think he's too young. And so I want him to go to, I told, he's with Stefano Cantelli. I said, Stefano, like, what can we get him in Canada? They said the problem is, and then he explained it, he's not done with high school. So he can't play unless he has family there and he can live with the family and go to school there and prove that. And
isn't that just a billet? Can't you just bill it? Or is that no?
It has to be a family member. And so I don't like that rule. I don't like that rule. And I think it's just, I guess maybe it's Hockey Canada is using it to protect their young players, and so they can't have this massive influx of Americans and I'm assuming Europeans come in and play. But I think you should, I don't know, I think you should be allowed. Maybe as a 16-year-old, sure, 16-year-olds can't come, but if you're 17, 18, you should be allowed, in my opinion, to play even if you're not finished with high school.
How is that possible? Because some of the best 16-year-olds are playing in the OHL.
I don't know if the OHL qualifies in that rule, or maybe it must be a tier 2 rule.
Unless they're not part of Hockey Canada. I don't know if
No, no, they are part of Hockey Canada.
Oh, I guess they
Let me see if I
would.
can pull it up. Let me see if I can find it here. I've been trying to see. Okay, so Hockey Canada changed the rule. He needs to be graduated from high school to be allowed to count as an import in juniors. So again, I'm assuming this is tier 2 only. Some players who try to leave the province early, it's only if they graduate. Stupid rule. None of the coaches like it. Yeah, so trying to see. So the loophole that some players find is if he has family he can stay with. So family he can live with, he would need to prove this, and then he has to be in a physical school at that location to show that he moved there for that reason, being school and working with the family.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do.
It's not
If
that
you're an
hard to do,
American,
but
if you're an American playing hockey and you've been coming up through the AAA system and you've been paying your $10,000 to $12,000 US a year, you can
to lose 43-0.
Yeah, you can. Your parents are all in. They're gonna rent an apartment in Scarborough and move up there. You go to school, and there you go. Like come on.
Yeah. All right, but I do think that is a crappy. I don't like that rule. I don't like that one at all. Because I think if you're good, you should be allowed to go play. But whatever. What do I know? I'm just volunteer goalie development coordinator amongst my many titles. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate it. Excited. Hopefully you tune in to the next episode and every episode after that. But next one will be a good one with Director of Goaltending USA Hockey, Steve Thompson. Derek, where can we find you?
Well, hang on before you go.
Oh.
I listen to all these other podcasts, and at the end they always say, "Give us a like and subscribe and comment, and it helps with the the stuff." And we never say that.
Yeah, because our listeners are really good and kind of do that anyways. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars. It does help. Just share it. Share the pod. Actually, you know what the best thing is? Sharing the pod. Because reviews are cool and we like the questions. I'd rather you share it with other hockey parents and stuff, because that's why we do this, to help and hopefully give them a laugh, but also to educate and stuff. So the best thing you can do is to share the podcast. Derek, where can people find you?
At Bougin Goaltending _ maybe? Wait. I don't know. At Bougin _ goaltending on Instagram. Coach Bougin at hotmail.com. Don't text me. That's weird. But yeah, only find me if you live near me. I don't do anything online because that's Jamie's thing.
Yeah, if you listen to this podcast, you probably know where to find me. All the info's in the description of this video. Thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you next week.